Hi guys, Marian here. Welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I want to share with you about a parenting topic that has been on my heart. I've been thinking about a lot recently, and that is competition between siblings. So if your kids are competitive with each other or interested to learn about what we do in our house to avoid that, then definitely stay tuned to this video. Give it a big thumbs up if you like these kind of videos to let me know. And let me know in the comments what you think about how we work this in our house, if you think it could work in your house, or what you do in your house to help others. All right, so let's jump in. So the reason this topic's been on my mind was actually last week I was picking up my son at school, and one of the dads was talking in the little area where all the parents wait, and he had two younger boys with him, and he also had an older boy in the school, just like I have, 3 boys, and he was complaining about how his boys are so competitive with one another, and he was saying they argue over every single thing. He says they have 100 competitions or fights a day, from who's going to be first in the car to first out of the car to first buckling their seatbelt to first to finish their breakfast to first to get their breakfast and so on. And I was like listening and being like because that would drive me crazy. And he was saying how it drives his wife crazy, and he was kind of brushing it off as like typical boy behavior, which always kind of makes me do a double take and think inquisitively, because I do think that that I always see differences between how kids play, if they're boys or girls, and just of course they could play with any toy or whatnot. But when you have all boys and then you experience play with girls and everything like that, it's just very remarkable, especially at the preschool age, to see kind of some differences and similarities. Anyway, so anytime anyone mentions things that are like, oh, typical boy behavior, I always tune in and think critically about it, because I'm raising 3 boys. And immediately I was very thankful that this does not exist in our house. And I realized, I was thinking about it the whole day, I was like, how important it is to me that my boys are not competitive, and kind of where that comes from and how that plays out in our home. And of course, my kids argue. They're not perfect angels. They're perfect children, and perfect children do argue, but they really are not competitive with each other. And I also kind of sat my husband down and talked to him about it too, because I was like, what is it that we do, to achieve that? Or do you think it's just them? Or, so we kind of been talking about it too. So I think there's a few things that play into it. And one of them is really based on my values as a Jewish parent. So one of the core values of a Jewish home is called Shalom Bayit, which really just translates to peace in the home. And there's this idea that we want our home to be a peaceful place. And the way that translates to parenting, and I've shared this in previous parenting videos as well, I'll link some of them below, is rather than rule with an authoritarian dictatorship of forcing your kids to behave in a certain way, is really creating a loving, peaceful environment in a genuine way. And I think I made my last video about consequences and punishment and how that plays out in a peaceful home. But I was thinking about it as it relates to competitiveness. So I have never once, and my husband, I don't think has either, ever been let's see who can get to the bath first, or let's see who can climb out the car first, or do their buckles first. And we just never have introduced that idea of a competitive spirit within the home. And I think that's very, very important if you want a situation or a family life that doesn't revolve around sibling rivalry and sibling competition. I also think for me, I really dislike the idea of putting siblings against each other. To me, the reason I had multiple children was for them to support each other and love each other, and to have that solid relationship throughout their whole lives. So it's very, very important to me from the beginning that they didn't see each other in a competitive way, and that they didn't view us as parents as a limited resource, or anything else in the home as a limited resource. And sometimes I do feel we kind of overindulge, because I always buy 2 of everything or 3 of everything, because I don't want them to argue. But they actually play really well together and share very well. Of course, they have their moments, but in general, they like to play together, and I see that they make compromises in order to continue the play. So this plays out almost daily, every day, where one of them, let's say, really wants to play a certain way or with a certain toy, and the other one will be frustrated and then give in, because the enticement of continuing to play is more exciting than getting to win and getting to keep the toy that they want to play with. And my oldest, this is where I think a little bit of his just like natural personality, he is just not that competitive. He just really wants his brothers to play with him and enjoy being with him. And so he will often, if they do have a situation where, let's say, they're running or something like that, or biking, this happens a lot when they're biking, he'll say, "Let's tie." So I always hear him bring that up when my younger one is like, "I'm gonna win," and he goes, "Let's tie," because, you know, he's older and faster. So he always waits for the little one to catch up to them, and then they tie at the end. And that's something he introduced on his own, because he saw that his younger brother would like get upset, you know, because it's hard if you're 2 years younger than your older brother. You're always gonna lose a running or biking race, you know, at least at this age where they're 6 and 4. Of course, that will definitely change in the future as they grow up. But my oldest has always been very much the peacemaker in that regard, and just wanted to make his middle brother happy and to not have him lose, because he didn't want him to get upset. So he would always say, "Let's tie," or "You can win, that's fine." And then we've always encouraged it, reinforced it, and like celebrated them doing that. So part of me, I was thinking about this and like, oh, like, is this kind of a disservice, you know, to your kids as they grow older? Because in a way, having a competitive spirit can be really advantageous in business and in school and growing up and in sports. And I guess the way I feel about it is, I care more about their relationships and being in a like loving, supportive home than I do about them having like the most competitive edge in life. And I think it'll come naturally that, you know, as they play sports and enter into naturally competitive environments, of which there are so many, that they will, you know, that component of them will be allowed to be expressed more, versus in the home where like anything is different at home than it is out of the home, that I don't want that playing into their home life. Personally, you know, growing up, I was always so much younger than my siblings. They're 7 and 11 years older than me, that I never had the opportunity to compete with them in like running or biking or that sort of thing, because they're so much older. And I always felt like they were ahead because they were, you know, ahead. And that was always hard because I was so far behind the things that they were already getting to do. So we try in our home now, I think I try to like not have it be that, oh, because someone's older or younger, they get to do different things. I know like a lot of homes have different bedtimes based on the ages of the siblings, which makes total sense, especially if your kids are, you know, years apart, right? But for us, we tend to like keep, once they're not babies anymore, they're like all the same in that regard. Like there's no special privileges or things that the oldest one gets. Although I will say, now that he's in kindergarten, his school has like special things that he gets to do, and we always say, like, you know, when you get to kindergarten, you get to do those things. So it does again happen in like the external world naturally, but at home it doesn't. Like they get treated equally. And again, just trying to not make things finite resources like time with us, or that there's some prize for doing anything better or faster. Also, my kids have different abilities in their like physical and emotional states, right? So if one child is just naturally better at like getting dressed in the morning and getting his shoes on, I just don't think it's fair to create a competitive environment in which I know one will always win. And in the same way, like that goes for like, you know, eating their vegetables or like not tantruming. I just don't reward that kind of behavior at all, but I also don't reward it in a sense that like if you do it better than your brother. And I just try to never introduce that way of thinking or speaking about the other person. So I won't be like, your brother has his shoes on, what's your problem? Or your brother's not crying about the ice cream, that kind of thing. So just trying to avoid all that comparative talk, because I just don't think it's helpful or uplifting or motivating, really. I think all it does is create antagonism between the siblings. And for me, it all plays back into this idea of shalom bayit and creating a peaceful home, so you always have a loving home and loving, supportive family unit to return to. So that's what we do to avoid competition between siblings. I'm really curious to hear what you do in your home. If it's a problem in your home, if you encourage it in your home and you really don't agree with what I'm saying, I would love to hear from everyone. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up either way, so I know if you're interested in these kind of topics and to make more of it. I love sharing about parenting advice and how my Jewish life plays into my parenting life and all of that. So I hope you guys like this one. Definitely hit the red subscribe button down below so you can catch more of my videos in your YouTube feed. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!